What is America? This is a question that's answer has changed drastically. Throughout the 240 years, the United States of America has been a country. From the very beginning of the United States in 1776, they have proved to be a figure who stands out from the rest by being the first to have a successful colonial war with a European power and gain independence. They became a symbol of freedom and opportunity throughout the world, but never became a world leader until mid-20th century, after World War II. Today, the United States leads the world's economy with a GDP of over 17 trillion, the largest conventional army with over 1 million troops enlisted, and the most nuclear warheads with at least 1,900 active ones. But what changed from a British colony to one of the most powerful countries in the world today? The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end World War II created an image of the United States of America as a superpower who would use this influence to become an international authority. However, this also led to a nuclear arms race and mixed perception of U.S. foreign policies around the world. The United States were pulled into World War II when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, Hawaii on December 7, 1941. Just after the bombing, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt gave a rousing speech to the U.S. Congress, known today as the infamy speech. This is a defining moment that was to change the course of world geopolitics, where the United States were to take a global leadership role that continues until today.
No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. I believe that I interpret the will of the Congress and of the people when I assert that we will not only defend ourselves to the uttermost, but will make it very certain that this form of treachery shall never again endanger us.
On August 6th and August 9th of 1945, the United States responded by dropping 2 atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 2 Japanese cities. The building of the atomic bomb had begun right after the Pearl Harbor bombings. The Manhattan Project, the name of the project that built the atomic bombs, was officially started in 1942 by Franklin Delano Roosevelt after encouragement from famous scientist Albert Einstein. It underwent many challenges, but after Trinity, the testing of the bomb in Los Alamos, New Mexico, was a success. The United States government's hopes elevated. On August 6, 1945, Little Boy, a gun assembly type bomb, was dropped over Hiroshima, Japan, and on August 9, 1945, the second, an implosion type bomb named Fat Man, was dropped over Nagasaki.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped 1 bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the enemy. That bomb has more power than 20,000 tons of TNT. The Japanese began the war from the air at Pearl Harbor. They have been repaid many-fold, and the end is not yet. With this bomb, we have now added a new and revolutionary increase in destruction to supplement the growing power of our armed forces.
Together, the death toll amounted to almost 200,000 casualties. On August 14th, Japan surrendered to the United States and ended World War II. According to Robert Norris, Senior Research Associate at National Resources Defense Council and nuclear expert, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings were inevitable.
So ultimately, I think it saved lives, both Japanese and American and Allied. And I think that if the war had gone on without the use of the bomb, in August of 1945, it might have been used later. You bring up the Korean War. And I think American presidents had in their mind images of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it was a deterrent in their own actions not to use a bomb in later crises.
Pew Research Center, in a recent survey, concluded that the number of Americans who believe that the bombings were justified has been decreasing, and those who believe it was unjustified have increased at a soaring rate since 1945, directly ensuing the bombings.
We just saw this episode differently. Americans, I think, took a very pragmatic view of it. The Japanese took a more moral view of it. We found this year that 56% of Americans still believe that the bombing was justified. But I can tell you that percentage has changed dramatically over the 70 years. Among millennials, those who are ages 18 to 29, only 47% believe that it was justified. So things are really changing in the United States on this issue. They're also changing in Japan. The percentage of Japanese who believe it was unjustified keeps going up. But we seem to be moving here in the United States on this issue as much as the Japanese are.
When the Americans emerged from World War II with the advanced nuclear technologies they had developed, they were propelled into the position of a world superpower. The bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki created friction between many countries who saw the bomb as a symbol of power and security. This was primarily the Soviet Union, who raced against the United States to possess this technology during the Cold War. The Cold War fizzled out in 1991, but since then, China, the United Kingdom, France, India, Pakistan, and North Korea have admitted to possessing nuclear weapons. The United States, with the help of the Soviet Union, have taken a central role in monitoring the management of nuclear bombs being used by leading the movement for the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, which attempts to prevent nuclear weapons use for world peace. Today, according to a poll conducted by Pew Global Research Center, the majority of countries have a positive view of American foreign policy, except for Russia, Pakistan, and the Middle East. The Middle East has been affected by the United States through the Iraq War, Afghanistan War, and the bombing of terrorist groups like the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS, where innocent civilians' families and homes were destroyed in warfare. This can be concluded as one of the most affecting factors on why the Middle East has such low ratings of the United States. However, in other countries where the U.S. has been involved with wars, their public image has recovered. These are the Vietnam and Korean Wars, neither which directly involved them to begin with. Yet 78% of Vietnamese people and 84% of Koreans have a positive view of Americans. Until Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, the United States were not taking an active role in any wars and were not deeply concerned about events occurring in Europe and Asia. But now that they were engaged in World War II, it was necessary to demonstrate their might by deploying the most destructive weapon they possessed, the atom bomb. Bombing Japan finally made the United States realize the power they had in their arsenal and that they needed to make sure others did not acquire these weapons of mass destruction. Ensuing World War II, there were two major responsibilities the United States found themselves having that made them an international superpower. The United States needed to monitor other countries to prevent them from having the same firepower they did. They also needed to defend their ideals of democracy and freedom, now that they had the authority to enforce them. While the United States has been successful in influencing the world order today, there has been consequences. A few countries, such as North Korea and Iran, have been vocal about using nuclear weapons for destructive purposes. Secondly, the United States' enforcement of its beliefs around the world has led to many countries seeing this as meddling into their internal affairs. This, in turn, has led to negative perception of U.S. foreign policy in several regions such as the Middle East, Russia, and China. The atomic bombings of Japan forced the United States to create an image of power. With today's negative perceptions, U.S. now has another chance to redefine its image in today's and tomorrow's world.